Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. If you've passed by Barnstable Town Hall in the past several months, you've no doubt noticed that there's some major work being done to the exterior of the building. When complete, the work will amount to a complete and accurate historical restoration of Town Hall, which is one of the types of projects that can be funded by Community Preservation Act funds. Deeming it to be an historic building essential to the town, the Community Preservation Committee in 2009 recommended appropriating the funds necessary to pay for much of the exterior restoration. Accordingly, project manager John Juros was before the CPC last week to provide a progress update.
What we have on the drawing here shows the top done in blue. That represents the area that's basically been completed in terms of the roofing, the flashing, the gutters. The windows, of course, have not been completed. And then we have these orange areas, and those are areas which are change order areas, areas in which we found a lot of problems. And so we have to go back in, and those are what change orders come from. These other gray areas here, that's what they're working on behind all that fabric out there. And those are some of the nasty areas you see in some of the photographs that show the steel beams inside, and you can see the replacement of some of those members, the brick arches, and that's what they're doing throughout the building. And you can see the same situation here, where in orange there are problem areas that we have to go back in. Those are part of change orders, if you will. The bottom part here, in red, dotted red, that's where they still have to go back in, and they're cutting masonry. That's that terrible job where every joint was cut out back 1.5 inches, and then 3 courses of mortar applied. And so that's what they're doing on here. The top part, they've removed the scaffold because they're going to put the windows in by lifts. And you might have noticed on the top, over on this surface here, they were taking what they put up and taking it off. So we have a lot of oversight on the project. All is not always wonderful, and we're not always the nice guys to say that's great, we'll pass on it. Town manager's office had some considerable problems here, where we literally went in and took off the outer wipes of brick. What's happening in many cases, we find the outer wipe of brick is literally separated from the core masonry as much as 1 inch or more. And so you have a river of water that passes through the building. It's amazing we're not floating today. Now, we made it worse. I said this before, because we cut all those masonry joints out and then went back in and packed that with mortar. When we get the whole thing done, we're going to come back in and we're going to put a waterproofing agent over the solid mass of the masonry.
In addition to what's been done so far, Juros also informed the CPC that numerous problems have been discovered since the restoration of Town Hall began, all of which need to be fixed. Here, Juros runs through some of them, including one that may partially explain why the CPC members were fully bundled up on the dais.
Behind where you're sitting now, there were large slots that were cut into the masonry wall for an old antique, well, part of the heating system. All that system was taken out years ago, piece of plywood put in there. It's probably cold back there. And that's because that's like wide open. What we're going to do is remove all that stuff and put back the herringbone pattern that was there originally. The snow on the roof is really a problem. On the south elevation, there's a dormer up there, and there's a fairly flat roof section. We didn't think at the time that we needed a snow guardrail up there. We have a camera on top of the roof up there, and we can see what's happening. And we found the snow. If you talk to Mr. Wood, you find the sheet of the snow just slid right off that roof, and therefore we said, whoops, got to have snow guard up there. Before we had shingles falling off, and we had sheet ice falling down. Now we have snow guards and ice guards up there. There's an issue in here on 2K dealing with brownstone sills and lintels. These are those large horizontal brown stone, and some of them are cracked or split or whatever, and they need to be literally removed and replaced. So there's a little bit of that. And the last item here, rebuilding the arches. There's a number of those that are a problem, and this is based upon the fact that the steel is literally moved in the wall itself, and it moved horizontally. Remember, steel will expand as much as 7 times its actual size when it's in a rotting condition. And when that happens, you push masonry out. Pushing that masonry out, we find there's a foot of masonry around the band of the building that's literally been pushed out as much as 1.5 inches.
After the town hall update, the CPC considered 2 new requests from the town for historical preservation funding. The first was for over $380,000 to restore the old Selectmen's building in West Barnstable. Of course, an historical restoration is much more expensive than new construction, but CPC member Laura Schufelt and most of her colleagues felt that it was too big a pill to swallow.
$381,000 for a building that has limited use, obviously has aesthetic value, but doesn't have, meeting space isn't used all that much except as a gallery so many weeks a year. Doesn't seem like the best use of public funds in my mind. I think that we've been pretty consistent with historic projects requesting or requiring some other matching funds or some kind of other funds to come in and help do this, and maybe there needs to be a Friends of the Old Selectmen building established to try and raise some funds. Obviously the window grant for this building in the scheme of things wasn't very much, but it was something. And this building obviously has great value to the town in the office space that it provides and the meeting space that it provides. So I don't think that this is a good use of our funds.
The CPC denied the funding without prejudice, meaning that town staff can bring back a new proposal without reapplying for the funds. The second funding request was for an exterior restoration of the school administration building, similar to the one that's being done now on Town Hall. Project manager John Juros was again called upon for a breakdown of those costs.
The scope of work has been moved around such that we are looking at exterior handrails, granite steps, some work on the roof. We're looking at the exterior skin of the building with 100% masonry, what we call deep pointing, which is worth about $450,000. That's the same awful job of cutting the joints out and going back in with 3 courses of mortar. 100% new windows. There's another $450. Soffit repairs and replacement of soffits. There's about $45. Slate repair. We're talking repair, not replacement. We did replacement on this building. SAB appears that we're estimating about $147,000 for that now. So when we add that all in with my favorite soft costs that this committee is always happy to endorse, comes up to a request here of about, I'll call it $1.5 million, a little bit shy of that.
The CPC decided that it needed more information before making a decision on the school administration building and tabled the request for future consideration. Now, let's take a look at this week's meetings. Tuesday, February 1st, the Conservation Commission meets in the Town Hall hearing room at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, February 2nd, the Zoning Board of Appeals meets in the Town Hall hearing room at 7 p.m. Also at 7, the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission meets in the Selectmen's Conference Room. On Thursday, February 3rd, the Town Council meets in the Town Hall hearing room. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.